This situation, folks, with Kanye just keeps getting crazier and crazier. And it kind of feels like this is kind of exactly what he wants for the publicity, at least in my opinion. Now, for those who are wondering why I look like absolute crap, well, I've been sick for the last couple of days and I'm still sick. So bear with me here. But yeah, apparently the news came out. I'm a little late too. This came out like a day or so ago. But basically, Kanye is it hasn't even happened yet. They're saying that the family is going to hit Kanye with a $250 million lawsuit. Now, let me explain the one thing that I know for a fact when it comes to lawsuits. And I know this because I've been threatened to be sued numerous times on my main channel. For those who follow me, I got a main channel. It's a finance channel. I've been threatened to be sued numerous times. And I've talked to legal representation regarding the subject. One thing I know for a fact, you have a winnable case if somebody lies. Now, it's important to remember, and I don't know how the George Floyd family made this mistake in their press release, but in their press release, when they basically announced that they were going to sue Kanye West for $250 million, they had the term defamation in the press release, which is weird because you guys know you can't legally defame a dead person. So they don't have a case there. However, they also mentioned intentional infliction of emotional distress and misappropriation. Now, one thing I know about lawsuits from my experience, you can't lie. And if you lie, you can absolutely get sued and lose the case. And I think they actually might have a case against Kanye West and Candace Owens if they decide to sue them. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, I haven't exactly watched the entire Candace Owens documentary or whatever it is. But one thing I can tell you is claiming that George Floyd died of fentanyl, he overdosed on fentanyl, or because of the fentanyl, is just an outright lie. And I know there's some people in my comments who think that I'm wrong and think that he died of the fentanyl and the knee wasn't fully on the neck. Whatever, that's your opinion. You can have whatever opinion you want. That's welcome on the channel. But I'm giving you guys the facts and what's going to happen in court. The way the court's going to see it is the medical examiner said that there wasn't enough fentanyl in his system to be lethal. So it's automatically ruled out. They already said there's no way he could have died as a result of the fentanyl in his system because there wasn't enough of it in there for it to be a lethal dose, a lethal amount. They also ruled it a homicide. They literally ruled George Floyd's death a homicide. So what does that mean in the court? George Floyd's death, by law, by fact, was a result of the officer Derek Chauvin having his knee on George Floyd's neck. So, in my personal opinion, because again, this is opinion. I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but I just, I know how lawsuits work just a little bit. Just give my opinion here. I think they have a case. I really do. I think they could actually win. This could be like an Alex Jones thing. It could. It really could. It really could be like an Alex Jones thing because if you think, obviously it's not as severe because with the Alex Jones case, Alex Jones did it for so long. There was so much evidence that built up against him because now you had the people that he called actors of the Sandy Hook thing. You had those people being harassed and rocks thrown at them and people pointing guns and just all kinds of crazy stuff happening in this. So they really had a case there. Now with Kanye, that stuff hasn't happened yet. We'll see what actually comes out in court. There may be some things behind the scenes that have happened regarding that situation that we don't actually know. Who knows? But I could see how the family could actually argue that they're suffering from real emotional distress because Kanye is literally lying and saying that he died as a result of the fentanyl. He died as a result of drugs instead of an officer having his knee on his neck for 8 minutes. You guys also have to remember something. This is where Kanye screwed up. And believe it or not, guys, this is political, in my opinion. I think this is going to be political because remember, George Floyd was used. I'm going to admit this. It's the truth. Every once in a while, you have that one person who just ends up being the person. They just end up being risen higher in the spotlight than the other black people who've been killed by police. Now, obviously, there are cases of black men killed by police that haven't gotten as much news coverage as other people. And in this case, George Floyd has gotten more media coverage, arguably, than any other black person that got murdered by police. So in my opinion, if they actually take this to court, which again, they haven't filed the paperwork yet, I think I think politics are going to come into play here, because this George Floyd case is so massive, so big. It has so much support behind it. You know, I just don't. I think they're going to rule in favor of the family. I really do. I think the family's untouchable at this point. I think if you do something that is very provable that you've done harm to the family, I think they're going to get you. That's where it's at. It's politics now, because George Floyd's name really started an entire movement. Like, don't get me wrong, Black Lives Matter was already here, but I would argue that the George Floyd thing just, it just ushered in an entire new wave of protests. If you guys remember the protests that happened during the COVID era in 2020 and 2021, so I really think that politics are gonna come into play here. So that's why I think Kanye really messed up, and I'm not so sure if they're gonna go after Drink Champs and Nori, but I definitely think they're gonna go after Candace Owens, and I think Candace Owens is gonna lose too. I really do, because like I said, don't get me wrong, I think that Kanye was wrong for what he said, and I think that Candace Owens was wrong. Don't get me wrong. But I also think that not only were they wrong, but I think politics come into play. When this lawsuit happens, there's going to be insane media coverage for it. And it's not just because Kanye West is involved. It's also because it has to do with George Floyd. And it's freaking $250 million. So when you put all that into perspective, I just don't see how the George Floyd family loses, folks. So I'm just being honest with you guys. We'll see what happens when the actual paperwork gets filed. Because remember, guys, people don't know. When you sue somebody, you have to actually go to your lawyer, and your lawyer has to file the paperwork with the courthouse in the state that you're suing that person for, which, by the way, could cost anywhere between $2,500 to like $4,000. Like it costs money to even do that. And then they're going to go through. Well, I'm not going to explain that whole thing. I'm not going to bore you guys. But anyway, that's the gist of it. So we'll see what happens when the actual paperwork comes out. But yeah, this lawsuit's insane. And I think Kanye messed up. I think Kanye's controversial opinions are fine. You're free to have your opinions, but I think there's a certain point where you go too far and you take it too far, and now you get yourself in trouble. And that's where Kanye has landed himself. Doesn't matter how rich he is and all that stuff. I think he's going to end up paying up, folks. I really do. I think his best case scenario in this situation is he ends up coming up to some sort of settlement. But I do not see him winning this case, folks. I think the George Floyd family has a case, and they've got politics working on their side. And anyway, there you guys have it. That'll go ahead and conclude today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.